Thanks for coming. We are the technical team and some support services from Spokane Public Library. I am Gordon Goldner. I am the IT developer, which means I get to play with all the guts.
I'm Joseph Malloy. I'm the IT manager and FOLIO implementation project manager.
I'm Rob Bruce. I'm support services manager, or in other words, tech services.
We've been on FOLIO for the last, for the last 20 months. So for us, it's really been 48 months of getting to today with FOLIO. It's been a trial, and it's been fun, and it works. So, you know, at that point, it's a success. Honestly, it's been a success every step of the way, with a bunch of fun problems, challenges, and explorations. Oops, I did not want that. That's a very sensitive button. We chose FOLIO for actually a lot of the reasons we heard earlier today. Honestly, biggest one is empowerment. That was why we wanted FOLIO. It gave us the chance to see the guts. I'm a programmer. I've been on the team. That meant I have all of the power to do anything we needed to do. Granted, it turns out I'm not a Java programmer, so I don't. But hey, new steps. We spent 20 months getting to live. Honestly, we spent a month spinning our wheels, looking at it, trying to see if we could get it running, and then said, no, we can't. We then contracted with the Next Data to get it running. There were, even after that point, there were an enormous number of bottlenecks. There were pain points, and we have a bunch of workarounds like everybody else does. Honestly, the joke I made to Joey earlier was, on every JIRA, we should probably put, if there's a feature that we've worked around, we should just post our workaround so that everybody sees how many workarounds that have been done, because that will say the importance of that feature.
And then they can be reconsumed.
And that becomes also like a point of, like, these are what we need, obviously. These are the requirements. We've made a tool that was our requirements. Some of the big ones were we had to redevelop the SIP module, and we desperately needed actual cost to work, because it was if it didn't work, well, we were in trouble with the state. All right. A little context: Spokane is 300,000 people in the gross metro area, 500,000 in a much larger metro area. We have some 350,000 books, titles on, and about technically 300,000 active customers. That's a bit of a lie, but this is an old slide. It is no longer true. There were some of the big bottlenecks and weirdnesses of going live were that our organization was under an enormous amount of flux at the same time that we were going live with FOLIO. We decided that we had just done a capital project to redevelop all of our buildings. So every building got closed and reopened in the time that we were migrating FOLIO. COVID happened, of course, in that same time. So really convenient that our buildings were closed. We also started in baby steps that became larger steps, taking on the school district as a consortium partner. We weren't a consortium before that point. More than like a high level consortium partner in that we do run all of their libraries, but we don't run, they have their own staff.
Middle school libraries.
Middle school.
At the moment.
Yeah.
That's the baby step we're at. That did start with some small baby steps that started in our previous ILS. We were on Horizon before. And you can tell me to slow down at any point. I realize I talk fast as I get nervous, and so I just keep going. We implemented a single sign-on implementation in order to get all the students to be able to sign on automatically, because we are not allowed to ask them for information. So we had to get all of the information from the students. That was our first step into single sign-on. And then we moved to FOLIO and let it lay dormant for a year, stopped working, because that was one of the things with low-hanging fruit that we couldn't take time to work on because there were so many things the other get going. And yet at that same time, we were taking on their libraries. So the students could no longer log in directly, but we were using their books.
Thankfully, the school district they were really good players through the whole thing. Their IT department was willing to work with us through every step of what was necessary to integrate not just their physical equipment inside the buildings, but as well as staff education and working to integrate their Azure Active Directory, which is what we eventually used to implement single sign-on for ViewFind.
Like in many ways, we migrated Folio twice.
Yeah, which also, part of this challenge too was the import of large volumes of items too, which we'll talk about a little bit more along the way.
I think that's skipped in here. Or I don't know where you put that in.
That's okay.
That's a lot. Gosh, that's loud.
That's okay.
All right. There are so many roadblocks to this. Our biggest one was communication, honestly. It still is. Actually, that's going to come up. We're a small team. One developer at the time, one developer, one sysad. That was our team. We now have another developer, and soon are going to potentially have another developer for a temporary period of time. And we have Index Data. They have been an amazing partner. Automatic slide, cool. Heard me. But the going live meant it was an MVP, but because it's MVP, it is missing a ton of essential features. But at the same time, we needed to go live. Like that, if we didn't go forward, we weren't going to. And even with those missing features, even with at that point a ton of staff crankiness, it always felt like it was moving forward. We continued having incremental successes in building tools to fix the things that people needed right now, which we're going, I think, I've said that at least 3 times now. One of the biggest things that we needed by far to go live was a much more complete SIP tool. The SIP implementation was missing about, all features. Like it had 3. I don't even know if it could for sure check out a book at the time.
It did great. It did do patron authentication. So we could verify that a PIN was accurate.
But you can't with configuration select if you want a PIN or not a PIN in configuration. Still working on that. And not just that, they had to work with, like SIP always has to work with, at least 5 different vendors, which have slightly different needs and dialects. And as I said at the beginning, not a Java developer, and it's written in Java. It's not just written in Java; it's written in closure-ridden Vertex, which was 6 months of headbanging. But now we have a robust solution. EBSCO has taken it on and is using much of our code to extend it to make sure that the rest of the SIP does the same things that ours does. So I haven't checked to see if it's at the state that ours is. Now, it's definitely so we have many tools that we've had to work around. Most of these I don't know anything about, because this is where having hired a consultant developer has been a godsend, in that I can work on the essential things and then he can just build any tooling we need while I'm working on other things.
Yeah, so there was mention earlier about the workarounds, right? And immediately during this first week of deployment, the number one feedback that you get from any staff member is, this isn't how your previous ILS did it, right? This isn't how Horizon did it, was the most common comment that we got. And so right off the bat, some of the low-hanging fruit that we had was to overcome workflow limitations, such as the expired holds list. At present, or at the time of migration, the means of generating a CSV file, downloading it, clearing out unnecessary columns, getting it formatted just so that staff could print it, and so on, was a little bit too much work to ask an already ragged staff during a bond relocation project physically outside of their buildings to go through that much work. So both the expired holds list, and I think I had the pick list featured in here, we generate anywhere between 50 to several hundred items worthy of being picked every day. In some of this case, again, downloading a CSV and doing multi-formatting, also because we wanted a tool that had the report where the items were geographically close to each other. You know, they're in close proximity so that when staff are clearing those items off the shelf and generating the items for sending, it was easiest for them. One of the others, and then with acquisitions, one of the pain points that Rob has expressed on a number of times is the acquisitions workflow and how difficult it is for large volumes of items to be processed. And Rob will have more to say on that later. But as a simple tool, this eliminated about 50% of some of the initial processing workload of the staff member having to go and get pertinent piece of instance and item information in order to print a receipt. In this example, this is formatted, ready to be printed on a receipt so that the staff member can grab it, throw it in a book, and off to the races on the next item. As we move closer to instance level requests, more instant pertinent information will be available on these receipt slips as well.
And luckily we did have one vendor willing to work with us in a very cheap way, which is Lipstick, to get spine label printing working. They worked quickly. It was a little difficult working across time zones and with language difficulties.
You might not know that.
But they honestly was within 30 days that they had it running.
Yes.
And they're from Technion universities in Israel.
In Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Now on to Rob.
Okay. So I'll take you through another one of our pain points. And we know that the community is working on title level requests, but this is what we have to do to work through title level requests. So, and basically we're manually performing algorithms. So first we run the script and captures all the multiple requests on one instance. We have a lot of that. Academic libraries probably don't face this issue so much, but our bread and butter is in the requests on the popular titles. So we run the script, we clean those up, we cancel requests, and then we run a holds ratio script. And we might be rebalancing because you might see 6 requests on American Prometheus, 6 requests. This one has 8 requests. Sometimes we have 1 request on the copy. So got huge imbalances, which were previously done by Horizon algorithmically. So yeah, we have to look them up in inventory, title by title. And then here you have your list. So in this case, I've captured a screenshot of one that doesn't have a huge variation, but we see huge variation. Sometimes you might have one that is lost. So, and you might have the most requests on it. So we do a lot of manual in and out of these things. Then that takes you 2 requests. So we might have to move request number 2 somewhere. And then we ran into problems with this list because it was limited to 10 copies. And that seems to come and go. And the next data can back us up on that. Then mysteriously, it comes and goes. Sometimes we see all our copies. Sometimes it's limited to 10. So this might tell us also we need to buy more copies. So we buy more copies. And so that's us working on requests.
So one of the initiatives that we're working on now is we are building a automated holds or request balance tool. And how it's going to work is it'll be parameterized on what locations or criteria for both items as well as the patrons to include or exclude as viable copies or viable patron groups worthy of, or not worthy, eligible for rebalancing. So in this situation, we can define certain circulation, basically circulation rules, where we have a loan type and or a material status, or a particular location. We have a special Northwest, a museum collection essentially that we could exclude. And what the tool will do is it'll go summarize the number of holds or requests across these items, and then balance them onto viable copies based on availability and all the other parameters that we've included, and balance them on the most likely, soonest to be returned, and the most recent or the oldest request. And then anytime the criteria, the items change, an item is returned from age to lost or another item, it will rebalance those and offer us not quite title level requests, but what it'll do is serve as a first oldest come, first served on any available item in the library. Of course, there's lots of exceptions that we need to code into that we're working through, such as whether an item is already on a hold shelf, right, versus in transit to another branch. And so there's different things that is what we're working on in order to alleviate, once again, another workaround to alleviate some of the pain that is experienced by support services in this work for the public.
And what Joey is describing is not title level requests. It's all scripted and algorithmically cleaned up, but it's not a title level request.
All right. Absolutely not. I cannot claim that.
One of our biggest reasons why this really proved to be empowerment, though, for the FOLIO element was that we don't use mod notices at all. We have it turned off, we're not even installed. And because we use two other vendors to do most of our notices, so we mostly use Patron Point and ITIVA. We fully, at the time, we fully expected and were told by Patron Point that they would help us build some form of connection to FOLIO. That did not end up being a thing. But so mostly now it's a bunch of shell scripts and uploads to AWS, which is less than what I want, but it does do 7 notices a day for each possible loan. Right now what is our current cadence? I built it. I don't even know our current cadence.
Oh, no. So what we have presently is, of course, hold pickup.
I guess it's in front of me.
Request. We have due, overdue, age to lost, and billing. And SMS notices as well through Patron Point have been integrated. So it was definitely a few months of tinkering to get it just so. But then even our overdue and age lost, essentially, we have a clean and clear mechanism to communicate in a customizable way. And this is going to be very important for public libraries, is that we need to be able to track the statistics of our customers who are interacting with these library services, and being able to, in this case, have better offerings based on the type of material that they're reading. All of this becomes really important when you're trying to do email promotion or promote your public services. And so we were lucky to have Gordon find a way to do this, and even still offer interactive voice or ITIVA, interactive voice response, for those users who are unable to receive email or have regular access to digital medium. Oh, yes. So during our relocation, I had mentioned we were in temporary spaces in many of our buildings. And one of the consequences of that relocation was the need for making batch item changes.
Which of course I can do,
Right.
but also it's not, the best use of my time all the time.
Yes, and more specifically is they give Gordon a CSV or a list of barcodes and say we need this, that, and the other, and it becomes very tedious to have maybe each file has its own specific set of definitions versus this file which has slightly different. And so more importantly is we had a lot of items in cold storage as well. They were in storage. They were in moving containers during these temporary relocations. They were mix and match, unpacked and relocated. And so we developed our own batch item editor, which I think is one of the big asks, and people have probably implemented this own workaround themselves. And so in our situation, you can input up to 50 different items at a time, which is we're being kind to the API required resource demands. And then you can apply a specific set of criterion to the whole list of items and then change on an individual basis. So while you might have all 50 items that need to have this one minor or major transformation, you can apply specific rules to items in your batch of 50. So very quickly, we were able to get through, I don't know, about 23,000 items from South Hill in with 5-6 staff working on it for several hours a day. We've relocated all this material, and this has been a big save also for the support services who might change material type and statuses, locations after it's received by support services.
I would add that our public services asked for this on day one.
Right.
Yes,
This was the thing we knew
was
right
a
away.
Requirement. It didn't happen.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
I
most
did.
of-
I threw some numbers in there.
All right.
Um,
All right. Actual cost billing was
yes.
is that where you need your paper?
notes
All right.
this.
Good.
So one of the things that we overlooked initially, well, I'm hearing the different public libraries talking about the requirement assessment, and boy, I wish I had done a better job at that. Because one of the things that we had overlooked was that there was no actual cost billing in FOLIO. And as a public library, we're beholden to report the value of items outside of our four walls to the state as accounts receivable. So it became an accounting nightmare when we were charging customers $5 for lost item processing fees for items valued in upwards of $1,500. We check out laptops and so forth. And so I developed a methodology in close conjunction with the business office requirements, and Gordon developed the code. And it's actually funny, I'll digress for a minute. I wrote a white paper about this, of the methodology and how this was going to work. And it was my first introduction into the FOLIO community. So I posted it around. I tried to get some feedback on possible limitations. And after a week, I went and checked the document hoping for some feedback, and I got one from an anonymous penguin that said to change your header and put in a subheading. I thought, how academic that my paper was graded. However, what we were able to do is using fine information from Horizon. We created a lost charge note on each item and imported its associated value from Horizon's archival data. We then found a match point between the PO line numbers and the FOLIO items and could create the actual price of items in that lost charge note field based on the order information. This is of particular importance for us that each item has its individual price, because the school district acquires their materials at a considerably better rate. And so we don't want to blanket charge customers for what it might cost on Amazon. when that's not representative of the actual cost to the customer or the patron. And so we did, I think, about 2.5, 3 weeks or 3 months of development and testing. And when we went live, we were able to retroactively, thank you. We were able to retroactively apply the lost item charges on customers who had or had not paid over the previous year. So we were retroactively restoring fines that they owed us. And the other benefit that we would gain from this is that if a customer came in and paid that lost charge, that lost processing fee, the loan would still remain open on their account. It's a bug because the account wasn't really settled. And so we implemented a flat fee of $10.79 that the process of Gordon's script will go and check for that value on an account, look up the value of the item created in the lost charge note, and then not create, but actually edit and manipulate the existing flat rate fee to the value of the item price. And the effects of this were staggering. We had thousands of items returned to us in a month. When they started, we had the billing notices all set up, and then we went with this, and wow, we had just tens of thousands of dollars worth of our collection returned within a few short weeks. And after that, we did some pinpointed, our marketing department did pinpointed communication based on some of the reports we generated for them to look at who owed the most. And then we also created a fail-safe. If we couldn't find a lost item charge, which is totally possible, then we would create a fine for $300.79. That's an eye catcher, and it would definitely catch the eye of either the staff member or the customer who would approach the desk and ask, why is this charged this way? It would give the staff the ability then to go in and find the item, find a value for that item, and fix the fine in real time. Go in and change it to the appropriate price based on support services ledger keeping, and then would adjust both the fine and the lost charge to correct it in the future. And so, because of course, the customer might still return the item, right? We're good faith here. Customer returns the item and it drops the fee and closes the loan.
Oh, and we are a fine-free library, so this is only lost charges that we ever cared about.
Yes, or damaged in that case, but that's of course not automated. So one of the consequences of charging people large amounts of money is that the business office and the accounting team want lots of detailed records for that. So rather than using the circulation log, which keeps data most of the time, we created a tool to for both managers, circulation managers out at the branch, as well as for the business office to use in order to have a full accounting of what transactions happened where and at what time. We also use this because we have a source location of the item. It's used to balance what items are owned by who in our school district consortium, because all of that becomes an important complication in our relationship with them. So this was just one extra little workaround that is a quality of life enhancement, both for the circulation managers as well as for the business office. And I should also say, oh yeah, I did do. We're also using Redash. I know some of you may have been in the LDP conversation or the MetaDB conversations, is that we use Redash, which is an open source product, and we're just getting started with it now. And we're using this to create our graphical statistical reports for regular staff to use. It can be integrated with Office 365 or any SAML integration, and it offers an ability to decentralize the control of the data, right? Which is always part of our goal. This enables regular staff to be able to go in and fork one of these queries and maybe tweak it a little bit the way they want. It offers variables for our hard core users to create regular queries, offer them up to the reporting SIG community, as well as publish them here to be manipulated and consumed by staff. And so this has become very important for us, or to be able to report to the board or the state, etc. We are going to migrate to MetaDB soon. And one of the goals that we're going to have is all those workarounds that I provided are done through API call. And my goal is for our developers to spend lots more time and connect it into MetaDB instead, to ease the strain on some of the API work that we're doing, because we do a lot.
Mostly to make batches much faster.
Yeah, batches faster. And then one of the other enhancements that we've done for quality of life changes is improvements to ViewFind. And I invite you all to go check it out at SpokaneLibrary.org. You can go look at some of the enhancements to the catalog on there as well. Yes, so our goal now is immersion. That's the thing that
we finally have got our head above water, is what we really feel like.
Yes.
Like as difficult as it's been, as I said, every time we've gotten even a minor success, it has felt like the whole thing has been successful.
Yes.
Like we often do feel down about how difficult Folio is. That one, we wanted to go self-hosting as well. Like that was one of our prime goals at the beginning. That probably is impossible. It's still a goal of mine. Probably impossible. But every day we just keep going. It keeps working. We do have a system. We're adding more users. We've grown, and it's been great. One of the big ways that we hope to grow is that because we are one of the reasons I didn't call out earlier. One of the reasons we chose Folio is because we see ourselves as a cutting edge library. Our goals are to be at the forefront. One of the big problems with Folio and open source is it is not even a small amount more expensive than our previous solution. Like the easily 4 times as expensive, I feel like. In terms of developers, and look, we've added at least 2 developers in that time. That's a huge amount of cost. Our hosting fees and support costs. There's just it's huge. But where we can be is to make it so that a library our size or smaller can hitch on to our success. That particularly as a regional library with a lot of small libraries around us, like we are in an urban area in a very rural area around us. And that is one of the strong points that we think we can be at. We may not be now, maybe a few years. One of the other things is we're hiring.
If you know me, looking for a job.
We are hiring a Java developer or a general full stack systems developer. Java because it's Folio. We have it's a 2-year commit contract. It is really has some exciting potential.
And you get to work with us.
And you get to work with us.
Which is an added bonus.
So the huge question mark on yours, because one of our dream products is as a public library, the mod users does not do what we need. It does enough to work, but what we need really is a CRM that is built in. And by a CRM, I don't mean that's about lead generation. What we care about is every transaction that a customer touches, the frontline staff need to know about it at point of service every time. That it needs to be instantly and obviously surfaceable. And because we have those needs, we may just have to build it. That's the thing.
One of the freedoms, one of those reasons why we chose Folio was the ability to do that. And we could build a completely different front end if we were insane enough to want to do that. And so, yes.
So I would add for now and later, I really don't have something specific about acquisitions. It has its pain points for us. But I have some great hope now for workflows. So if there's anyone else out there interested in workflows, I am really interested. I think we're all committed to making that maybe our solution to some of these pain points that seem to be stuck. It might be as simple as the user interface. We have to scroll to the right every time we want to see something. And wouldn't it be nice to have a tool that got around?
That's most of what we have. So if there's any questions or comments, now's a good time.
Great.
We'll let that sit a moment. I know, yeah. Sarah?
Or David?
I'm sorry.
No, either one.
Y'all have any hearing discount?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have
For
mine.
our, yeah, we find we can. It's like, when you said Tuscan, I was thinking FOLIO for a second, like, no. But for ViewFind, definitely, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put when we update the schedule, the shed event, right? Or sched. When we update that and put the slideshow presentation on there, I will also provide a test library card and pin so you can log in and look at the catalog. Yeah, absolutely.
So I always really love seeing all of the programs that you built, all of the like what was it called, because you know when you talk about like green libraries for your community, having those things outside the system is like causing tension because it's because those are things that like you say that FOLIO does.
So that is one of our goals with a new developer as well. Oh, so I can repeat the question. Yes. Is there a tension between outside tools and FOLIO? In one hand, I would say no. I don't think there is a tension. Honestly, we've been systems librarians for forever. We've always added new tools to what we do. That's just being a system librarian. The other side of that is where I would actually say what the goal is Stripes development to the point that adding simple apps like that should be trivial, honestly. And having a utility app where those are just a bunch of things that get added to your utility app, because and again, this is one spot where it's specifically where the Java divide probably needs to not be, because that's where things like Python and Go are going to like shine.
Yeah.
Is being able to rapidly add a Stripes utility right into the UI.
And a code that might be more common or among core libraries too, that can quickly write a tool like that.
Yeah, I would really say about speed of development is the primary element for why I would say it's another system.
Back to actual cost and that just something you missed in the data migration, or you could find the data?
Sure. So David's question was about the actual cost. Was it something that was missing in our data, or somehow other missing? It was an entirely missing feature at the time. It was not part of FOLIO at the time. There was
no place to put it.
Correct. We'll go to a different direction there. The feature as added was not sufficient or even close to what we needed. So even while it was being simultaneously developed at the same time, like literally was coming out at the same time we were developing, it was we didn't speak up early enough or know that it was coming. Again, this is back to communication. We missed the boat on getting our story out into the community, and even then we might not have ended up with a solution that would fit. This is where writing some backend scripts got what we needed.
And it's also the consequence of being on that cutting edge too, right? Where we could say, well, we can go now, or we can wait until Nolana for this feature that we're looking for. So even now that actual cost has been further developed, what we have is an opportunity to enable actual cost. And then, but actual cost uses a manual intervention, right? Where you have to go and select the items that are ready for cost adjustment. We could refactor, this is the plan, to refactor our tool to go
As it
out.
tells me right now.
Right, yeah, congratulations. This is December. Right now. Is to refactor this to use that API call to go and find those items, right? So rather than going and creating a 1079 to go find a 1079, instead you go and look up an item based on whether or not it's ready for actual cost adjustment.
Right.
Through the core code that already exists now.
At this point, yeah, if we transition our data model to the actual code data model, if we preemptively have filled those actual cost elements, that means they won't be prompted. They've already been filled. So then the manual cost thing, honestly, is just the way we use our $300.79 as the exceptions.
Yep. Exactly.
So the question was, how do you determine what you are next going to fill? This being in our title level request workaround that isn't title level request.
Automated holds ratio balance. Because we love our acronyms.
How are we doing that?
So the logic is again defining what is an eligible item. So basically taking our circulation rules of the circulation policy is can circulate and requests are allowed, and basically anywhere where requests are allowed. And then taking whatever would match that criteria and creating a list of parameters.
And I'll say our circulation rules are very simple.
Yes. I should add that. Yes, that we only have about 30 lines. It's 40 lines maybe. So we're simple people with simple needs. Except the public really wants title level requests. So anyway, it will take the sum total, all of those requests spread across the items, and then using that list of exceptions or definitions for what's eligible, it will use that and then balance them across. So our intention right now, we're using LDP in production, and we have MetaDB against our test database. That right now that process will run on a nightly basis once it's completed. But once MetaDB comes along and we have some relatively real-time data, we'll be able to use that to do the determination. Just because trying to do all the criteria lookup right now through the API is impossible. Yeah, the URL is too long. I'm glad you asked. So, and what was your name? I'm sorry, Tim. Tim's question was, does proximity have an impact on hold placement? The short answer is no. The long answer is no. In this case, our long answer is if an item is returned and in transit, we don't touch that as an item eligible or the request. So now we're also defining the type of requests based on queue position, whether or not it should be rearranged. So when we have an item in transit and a queue request position of 1, we're not going to mess with those because we know that it's en route to go to that customer. Because the last thing we need is for it to be routed to a different branch and then get routed back the other direction. And so essentially anything in queue position 1 does not get manipulated it doesn't get manipulated except for if the item status changes to lost or missing, something that would otherwise indicate the item is not coming back, at which point it would be eligible for relocation. So yeah, there's that. And if you have any other shortfalls, if you think of any other pitfalls, this, please tell me, because I'd rather find out now.
Cersei Dynex Horizon, that was one of the thickest parts of the documentation was about holds balancing and weighting by location, by customer borrower type, whatever. So we know it's a sophisticated part of the software. I might ask a question that, or refer to a question Eric from EBSCO asked me a while ago, and I'm not sure if my answer has changed yet, but he said, what one thing would attract more public libraries to FOLIO? And maybe we haven't talked about it in such a way, but my quick answer to Eric was more choices in the apps, possibly an academic inventory or an academic circulation or in the public library. That was my quick answer. Not sure if I have changed it yet, but our interest is to see more public libraries on FOLIO. We operate we're on that island.
Yes.
We heard about that island.
Except this is not the island of failed IT projects.
Yeah.
This one is a success. So,
Dave. Or Tim.
It could add some issue with batch or receiving.
yes.
And
Well, receiving is a very slow process. So working with index data, we are trying to get EDI ordering working with Baker and Taylor. So, and I did not repeat the question.
Yeah, and maybe go a little.
So
further.
the question was around receiving or batch receiving. What are we doing around that? So my goal is to see, we can ingest the EDI invoices right now, but we can't send out EDI orders yet. But index data has brought us to the cusp of getting this all to work. And I'm hoping that EDI invoices will somehow interface with receiving and make that quicker. But I'm not confident about that step. And that's where I'm hoping that workflows plays a role. So, but we're at initial stages looking at workflow. One of the things we found, a flaw that we found was that the just ingesting an EDI invoice has no PO line reference. And so we need to be sending our orders out with EDI to have that reference number go out. Our vendor says they can send that PO line number back to us so we can match things up. Receiving is slightly another step. And we, in Horizon, we tried a third-party software to automate receiving, and it didn't work very well. So it's always kind of a problem, and I'm not sure where we will go to solve it, but I have some hope if we can get EDI ordering and invoicing working, maybe there's another step for receiving.
I think that sort of forms that question. Why are you going the route of EDI instead of EDI ordering? Like going to the vendor site, filling your cart with the vendor, and using the API to create orders via the rest of the EDI info.
Because I didn't know that was possible, but my ears are open. Yes.
Fair. Okay. I would say that the main reason, more than likely being, is that Baker and Taylor already has EDI machinery in place. So working with EDI is an API at that point. But it also may have been literally just blinders based on standards. Like there easily could have been a better solution. Still could be.
And if someone thinks of one, let us know
Several vendors
how we can help.
work with several ILS.
Mhm.
workflow stuff.
And-
like
and-
that. But Baker and Taylor has done it with a few other vendors. That they have it for Sierra, it doesn't exactly work.
Right. They are,
Um,
it's one of those weird cases of asking a vendor to do work for you, but it's do work for you too, so you can buy stuff from them.
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
You can. This is the thing that struggle with thinking with library software industry is that if you go to our local university, state university, and find jobs of students coming out that can actually write stuff in RESTful API, the languages, and the markup that they're familiar with, or you can search for somebody who understands how to
Mhm.
They're not cranking that out.
But a good question. I'm keeping my ears open. I heard there was talk in EDI about EDI this morning. They talked about also talked about using data import to create your PO. But you're still stuck without that. We didn't transmit that PO line number to the vendor. So then we can't ingest the invoice. So I spoke with Index Data afterwards, and we said, "Yeah, don't think that's the answer for us."
Tim, you had a question?
Yeah.
Tim noted that we are not using mod notices and asked the reasons for that. Honestly, it just didn't do anything that we wanted enough, other than scheduling a notice. And well, that actually isn't hard math. Like if I could have used it as a scheduling engine, I would. It is one of our long-term projects is to eventually basically make a modular mod notice that would be part of that. It fits into that mod CRM idea, so that there could be plugins for notice types going out, some form of templating engine that also probably could be pluggable.
Yeah.
That those 6 letters or 7 letters, there's a lot of idea in there. And because the reason it's there is because we did notices our way, and but what we didn't get out of that is any kind of introspection on whether we did anything was particularly successful in an easy way. Partially because Patron Point doesn't have any kind of API for us to look at anything or do anything on. They don't have an API. They do have those analytics, but you have to go to a page and look at them. That's much less useful. I want those directly surfaceable. I'm not saying me building something is going to get me those directly surfaceable, but if I was able to get some of the only reasons we're with Patron Point is because they do constant contact like things for libraries. That's on the other hand, with a little bit of work, those things aren't that hard, and the only thing that they get beyond that is the making sure your mail more guaranteed delivery based on the fact you're not sending from one IP, that you're sending through. But I can do that through Mailgun or MailChimp or anywhere just as easily, and still do my same pixel tracking and stuff like that the exact same way they're doing it, because their technology, it's not like they have unique technology. Tracking is tracking is tracking.
Community, and it sounds like what we built is the needs of, like, the notices, for example. We're having issues with implementing notices as well, because we have several branch libraries within our campus, and you can't send out a notice for a particular sub-location, etc. So
Yes.
So
Yes.
for situations like that, at what point does it become, what's the threshold for something being contributed to the community as opposed to just being for
Mhm.
my library.
So-
I don't have it. I don't understand that.
This is probably the most important question of the entire conference, honestly. And that is, what is the threshold for one of our tools to be something that gets contributed to the community? Now, the truth is, I can just contribute it to the community by putting it on GitHub. I do have to do some work because, well, these are all quick and dirty stuff and there's configuration stuck in them. It's terrible. Like so I have to do work to make it so it's clean enough to put out there. I should do that work anyway, whether I'm putting it out there or not. The continual problem to be actually contributed to an actual to the community and to be part of a project. That requires much more stringent requirements of time and investment in making code good, testable, and also fitting into the right domain of what that's doing. So there's a lot of threshold of time while I'm running a library daily, like so I don't always have that luxury unless we make that luxury. Like we do take time for large projects, and but even then it's does a large project, like what's the level of importance at that point to getting it out there? We do have the internal mission of it is that important. We do want to be there. So we do need to take that time. We just haven't been heads above water until now. So those are actively in our backlog, is clean these up so that they can be put out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm curious, in the middle of actually cleaning up code and writing, and learning all the skills you need to put stuff into FOLIO, sounds like you've already written some white papers, some requirements documents. Could those be translated into Jira? Again, I'm not familiar with how requirements.
Yeah.
Place for this.
This is our first task for us. Is we've known for 4 years that we needed to involve ourselves in the community in a verbal level beyond coming here once a year.
Yeah, because I mean, with actual cost as the example, I mean, when we implemented that last December, it was 1 year, or November, it was 1 year after we went live. I can't just join the product owners meeting and say, hey, look at what we did and you should do it too, right?
You can, but you might be a crazy person.
Right? That's not the kind of community member, if you can call it that we want to be. And so the slow climbing out of the trenches of FOLIO that we're trying to do and go over the top is getting ourselves involved more with the community here, and hopefully being able to join those SIGs and offer some insight and any help we can. We might not have Java development staff time right now, although we are getting some, but being able to contribute programmatically to these different projects is a little bit more difficult for us, I think.
And that is time.
Thank you all for your time and your questions. Appreciate it.